Yeah, I would if I was on wildcard or whatever.
Hello everyone and welcome to our Gameweek 7 preview show. I'm Chris and Kieran is here too. How are you today, Keek?
Yeah, all good. How are you?
Good, yeah, very well. Coming off the back of, a Green Arrow this week, so yeah.
Not for me.
I'm feeling it was only a small one. You're putting yourself down already about these arrows. Alright, just before we get into the show, if you got any messages or comments, questions, put them in the chat and Kieran and I will try and get to them as we're just going through the preview. So let's start, Keek, by just talking about the teams and the arrows. You said, you were disappointed with the slight red, wasn't it? Slight.
Well, it was like 400k into the millions, unfortunately.
Right.
Yeah, it was 69 points, and obviously the average was 68. I think my safety score was 78-ish. So yeah, obviously a big week for the people who have Salahs, Matomas, and the team that I don't have, basically. I thought I had an all right week, but clearly not, I guess. So
it's crazy. I was surprised how high the average was as well. Like especially that Newcastle game, it made me think how many people must have Newcastle defenders.
Trippier's like 36% owned, and I had no idea, to be honest, because obviously all of Twitter doesn't seem to have him.
Yeah.
We haven't had him. We just for all those fixtures, but people, I guess, just all along have just also selected or just kept him in from the start.
I'm guessing it sounds mean to say, but I'm guessing there's a lot of auto select. I mean, I know two people just on my like work mini league who've auto select and got Trippier in their team and had huge weeks this week. So yeah, I don't know what the percentage would be of active players owning Trippier, but yeah. No.
And yeah, so I did Jackson and Gusto out in the end for Alvarez and Botman. So obviously Botman in was good. Nice return. There were 2 free transfers as well, and then obviously Jackson getting carded, blanking again, suspended for the next one, so that's good. So I'm happy to have Alvarez. And then I sold Gusto instead of Chilwell. I thought Chilwell would start. I thought Chilwell would start the next few, but apparently not. I thought Mudryk was really bad, so I thought Chilwell would play. Apparently not. So it just is what it is. And obviously selling Gusto in the end was obviously seemed to be quite good because he got that red card.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
Yeah, it's all right. But yeah, there's lots of things to discuss team coming up next week.
Well, just before we even get into my one, Kieran mentioned the wild card before we were even recording, so as a possibility.
Possibly, yeah.
So it's scary times. I feel like Chilwell was I don't know, it was a difficult one, wasn't it, all week? Like we both kept him, like you say, you got rid of Gusto. I was kind of sure, I didn't expect a clean sheet, but I kind of expected him to start and have maybe some form of attacking return. And to be fair, like he had a really good chance right near the end of the game where he was like through one-on-one with Martinez, and so like that goes in. We'd all be talking about this a bit differently, but yeah, it was such a fail. I obviously wildcarded into game week 6, and I kept him rather than any Newcastle defender just based on the fixtures and the potential attacking returns. And yeah, he's got back-to-back zeros. And you look at a player like, not that I could have afforded Trippier, but let's say a Botman who scored like 18 points in those two weeks, maybe even actually might have even 21, and basically every Newcastle defender has outscored him. So yeah, he's been such a big.
Did you just roll
big
last week? Did you?
Yeah, I did just roll last week because I fancied 2 free transfers. But yeah, I had a better week, mainly I think due to Morris coming in. So obviously, that I'm kind of pleased about that because I think now he's going to probably get a price rise, maybe 2 if I'm lucky, ahead of the double. I think he's maybe due tonight. So yeah, that dubious penalty, I have to say. And we'll talk more about Luton in a minute. I don't think they're I know they've got the double game week and I've got 2 of them, but I don't trust Morris that much after these games, to be honest. Their attacking numbers and their defensive numbers are pretty woeful still. But yeah, he was good. Salah I've obviously had for the 2 weeks now. He's kept returning. Matty Cash, I was confident he would get some attacking return against Chelsea, even if I didn't quite predict the clean sheet. But yeah, all in all, 78 points. It was a green arrow. It was about 400,000 places, but I think I'm 4 points or 5 points behind you or something like that. So I think we're both 1.2 or 3 million or something.
I don't, just on the rank, I've never been in this millions rank. I usually have good starts to the seasons. And I don't think I've ever dropped this low, especially when I've been taking it seriously, obviously over the last 6 odd years of playing FPL properly. And yeah, I don't think I've ever been around this. So let's just see what happens, I suppose. But yeah, if I can get to...
Why do you think it's been indifferent? I wouldn't even say on the week to week, neither of us have had dirt poor, or you've had dirt poor scores or any car crash game weeks.
Yeah, I think week 2 was not great for me, but other than that, I think they've all been pretty much average. So yeah, I guess you've got to be better than average, I suppose, at this point. Yeah, I've seen some people with 100+ scores this week, which is it's crazy, really. Yeah.
Well, it's a long season. And let's get back into talking about the preview a little bit. Should we start just by? Well, should we pick up on Chilwell or should we lead in with the double game week? What do you fancy?
Double game vibing, as the thumbnail says. So yeah, go for that.
Let's go for that. All right. Well, like I mentioned a minute ago, so I've got 2 double game week players in at the minute. Bell and Morris. You've got Kabore, if I'm not mistaken. I'm looking obviously to play both of these Luton boys, but I can say looking at the fixtures, I don't know. It's okay. The Burnley is the game to target. So Everton, looking at their opponents. Everton are the 8th best for expected goals conceded in the last 4, and the 6th best for XG, which really caught me out. I mean, obviously did a number on Brentford at the weekend, and they've had good underlying numbers this whole sort of season without delivering. So, to be honest, I can't see a clean sheet for Luton in that game. Maybe it might come again in this Burnley game. Burnley's 6th worst for expected goals conceded and 3rd worst for XG. So they are not producing at the top end of the pitch. When they go on into the season with Rodriguez and Foster as their front 2, and Foster's now sort of suspended, it doesn't really look like they have much goal threat. That game against United at the weekend, they had huge amounts of possession but didn't put it away. So yeah, for Luton, I'm not expecting much in this first game, but second game, where it's at. But looking more deeply into how Burnley performed against Luton last season, I know a lot of their players have changed, but Luton lost 1-0 at home and they drew 1-1 away, so it wasn't even like they put a few past them there. Luton, again, on their own numbers, 6th worst for expected goals in the last 4, and then sort of mid-table, 10th overall for expected goals conceded. So I'm not expecting anywhere near a bumper double game week return for Morris. And looking at his stats in isolation, so he's top for XGI with 44% and expected points in the last 4 fixtures for just on Luton alone. So yeah, you'd imagine him to be the best performer in that team based on that. But only 6 shots in the box in that time, which I think when I looked at it, compared to forwards in the last 4 game weeks, that's sort of only just inside sort of the top 15. And the forwards is already a bad bracket this season. So I feel a bit lucky to have got that penalty and a price rise out of him, but I think after this double game week, I'm probably be looking to move him on. And defensive prospects just recently, like I say, don't expect a clean sheet against Everton. Burnley, I think, is where it's going to come. Kabore is probably the most attacking pick, along potentially with Burke. So Kabore, you've got 4 million, 3 shots in the box so far this season, 3 key passes, 2 big chances created. That's the most of any of their defenders from an attacking sense. He obviously won that penalty at the weekend. Burke is another one just to mention. He hasn't started all the games. He started the last 4. He's 4 million too, and he's had 3 shots in the box, so he's a bit more of a threat, sort of some set pieces. And Bell, who I've got, is I picked him on the wildcard. He's not as attacking, but he hadn't missed any minutes at all this season, which I quite like.
Yep.
0 attacking threat though. He's had 1 shot in the box. It was considered a big chance, so I'm guessing it was a header from a corner. So I don't know. He might have some set piece threat, but I don't know. What's your read on Luton assets going into this game week?
Considering I got Alvarez last week, I'm not going to be getting Morris. So yeah, I see it as that. Has Morris even scored a goal that's not a penalty?
No, he's got two pen goals and 1 assist with his head.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, it's a worry. I don't see any clean sheets either. Kabori's obviously been decent for a sort of assist potential, so possibly something there, but he's probably going to be assisting to Morris if anything.
Yeah.
So yeah, it could go either way. It could easily be just 2 pointers for both games. But Morris could get another penalty and everyone will be laughing at the people who are just like, oh, it's double game weeks, you got to back the double game weeks. It's just you know what I mean, that could easily happen where he comes away with 10 points this week. So
I think what's interesting about his penalties as well is I think in the game against Brighton he had one on the opening day when they got whomped 4-1 and he got 2 bonus points that day, and he obviously got 3 at the weekend. So it seems like because they're just not performing in any other areas of the pitch, if he does get a single goal, he's probably going to pick up a good amount of bonus points. Yeah,
that's fair. I obviously got Alvarez last week, so I think it would be weird for me to sell him before Wolves away. He was unlucky to obviously be the sacrificial lamb for Rodri at the weekend. So yeah, he was super involved before that anyway, and I think he could have ended up in a haul. But I sort of bowed into the pressure of Alvarez. So yeah, Morris for me at the moment. Not going to happen. I'm happy with just Kabore, and just hopefully they'll get something, but just not expecting 2 clean sheets at all.
Could you get to Morris from Moamba, 4.5 million?
No, I've got something like 0.2 or 3 in the bank. Right. So all my money is in midfield right now.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, that second game, and just moving talking about Burnley. I don't think they're going to be getting much at Newcastle based on what I said about their lack of attacking threat. I mean, Newcastle are the best for expected goals conceded in the last 4. Considering they played Brighton in that game, it made me think how good their average in the other 3 games must be. They're 4th overall for XG. Again, I'm surprised that's not higher after the weekend. But yeah, absolutely don't see them getting anything. And like I mentioned about Luton a minute ago, they're the 6th worst for XG and mid-table for expected goals conceded. So, I wouldn't even be surprised if the game on I don't know what day of the week it is, but midweek next week it's like a 0-0 or a 1-0 somewhere.
This could be a total stinker for absolutely everyone. Double game week, it could just be a total avoid.
Yeah, no, and to be honest, unless you're on a wild card and you're restructuring your team the last couple of game weeks, I'd only sort of recommend a Luton 4 million defender or one of the Burnley 4 million defenders, or maybe even Trafford or the Luton goalkeeper, just because they're nailed on and starting, and they will get a double game week out of it. But yeah, it's
obviously with
slim pickings.
People who have Jackson, then Morris makes sense because obviously he's benched, he's suspended. So selling to Morris for the double upside makes total sense. But other than that, I think you just don't bother. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, no, and we'll talk about Jackson replacements as well in a bit. But you're right. I kind of feel especially for players who like you, Alvarez's ownership shot up nearly 10-12% before last game week, and I doubt many of those people, unless they've got a second free transfer to burn, are going to bother going to Morris when Wolves is just as good of a fixture for Alvarez. So, and he's had his rest now. I doubt he'll play at Newcastle this week because they've got, I think, am I right? Is the Champions League the week after?
Yes.
Is that right? Yeah. So I can't imagine. I imagine he gets rest, then plays at the weekend, and then plays Champions League. So no, I think that's probably
their
right.
City squad is kind of they got so many injuries now. Their squad is sort of light. So I think they might have to put out a fairly good team against Newcastle in the league. So we'll see.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. All right. Well, I don't think any more really to say about the doublers. I'm just fingers crossed that Morris can get another pen at Everton, and then I don't know, Bell with the assist.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
To be honest, because I had 2 free transfers at the start this week, I did consider is it worth using one to upgrade Bell to Kabore? But I'm never. I think in the grand scheme of how precious transfers are, I don't know if he's going to justify that much of like a points difference over the course of a season when like a transfer could be so valuable elsewhere.
No, he's not a Trippier, is he?
No.
So yeah, I wouldn't bother.
No. All right. Talking of defenders who we do like Trippier, and ones we don't like, should we talk about what to do with Chilwell and perhaps talk about good options?
Obviously, Gusto has now been carded and is going to miss some time. I don't think James is even back in training at all yet. So you'd imagine Chilwell is going to have to play the next two.
Yeah.
Because there isn't many other choices. Like, he is their vice captain. Like, he needs to stop being benched. Like, he came on and had that chance against at the weekend against Villa. Should have scored. So yeah, but obviously if you do want to replace him, spoilers for my team, I've already replaced him. I did move early, probably shouldn't have done with the news that's come out recently. But anyway, he's 5.6 million now. He's already had a drop, 24.3% owned as of when I wrote the notes. So it's probably lower than that now. But yeah, since game week 1, he had 7-1-6-1-0-0. So 1 point total from Forest at home, Bournemouth away, and Aston Villa at home.
That's so bad, isn't it?
Shockingly bad. Obviously, benched the last 2 weeks. He's come on every time, so he's going to get minutes every time. So he's not even going to be someone that just stays on the bench when he's benched.
And he's got yellows as well.
Yeah, he gets yellows. I think he's got 4, so just as lax as Jackson is on that sort of side of things. Yeah, at this point, he's not even nailed on. He's not someone who stays benched, and he's not someone who's going to haul or keep clean sheets right now. So it seems like it's probably a sell. But Fulham away could be fine, but I'm not confident in a clean sheet there. And then Burnley away, I feel like I'm not confident in a clean sheet there either. So even though their defensive stats are kind of all right, I've sold. And the replacement for the spoiler is Cash, who I've got in 4.7 million, 18% owned. Brighton at home this week, Wolves away, West Ham at home, Luton at home, Nottingham Forest away, Fulham at home. So that's good fixtures in the next 6. Since game week 1, he's had -1, which is obviously a clanger against Newcastle. 6, 17, -1 again, 1 and 6. So he does have that really bad game in him, but his ceiling obviously with those 17-point rate is obviously huge. So from game week 2 to 6, stats wise, shots at 12, which is first for all defenders, shots in the box 10, which is first, big chances of 2, which is first, XG of 1.68, which is at first. So obviously he's the top for all metrics of goal threat for all defenders. The nearest XG of defenders is Tarkowski at 0.8, and whereas he is on 1.68, so it's massive compared. And obviously he's not on pens or anything like that. This is all from open play of just goal threat for Cash. And what's not to like with those fixtures coming as well, like playing 90 minutes the whole time. I think he's missed like 4 minutes so far. Pretty happy to own him now. Maybe I should have waited. As I said, there's issues with possibly Saka or Maddison, but he's looking good. The assist stats are not great. He's got no big chances created, only 1 key pass, and an XA of 0.43. So, but his goal threat, if he's going to get in that sort of attacking potential, he's probably going to be able to provide assists from where he is getting those shots and sort of things. So, I don't see why he can't get assists from there. Like that option. Obviously, you've got him as well. You're happy to own him? Yeah,
he's been well. I've only had him for the 2 weeks. I was disappointed when he got 1 in that game against Crystal Palace because I was sort of banking on a clean sheet there. And they have been like so much better at home. Like Villa's defensive record since Emery took over has just been it's been one of the best in the league. So the fact that the next 4 games, maybe not the Brighton game, but 4 of the next 6 are at home, and apart from that Brighton game, I could see a clean sheet against West Ham, Luton and Fulham, and Wolves and Forest on the road are like a pretty low scoring teams. So I think he's got a haul or 2 in him here, and I don't mind the lack of assists with him because I think you're gonna you've got him for the shots and the clean sheets, and because he's not that expensive, it doesn't matter if he doesn't return that. I mean 4.6 or 7, I think it was 4.7 now, but 4.6 when I got him. I think it's such a minimal outlay for, Villa should be like a top 6 or 7 team by the end of the season, and he and Dean are, at the moment before Moreno gets back, are providing quite a lot of attacking returns in the Premier League and in Europe. So
he's someone that should be close to the Estepinian hype of just like ownership absolutely. As well. Like 17 points in 1 week for a defender. That's crazy. And his attacking stats, as we said when we were talking about Estepinian before, who was really good, but his have just like surpassed his by far. So he should be up there in the 30-40% owned area.
I think he's
because of how cheap he is.
I think he's actually got more points than Estepinian, like at this point of the season, and
yeah, fair.
And I don't think you probably would have said that at the start of the season. So I mean, he could be sort of that level of player for this season. So no, I think he's a solid choice, to be honest.
Right, so obviously, replacement-wise, obviously any Newcastle defender as well, because we're going to talk about Newcastle later. So any of them, Trippier, Botman, they look good replacements too. But other than that, Porro, I've mentioned him before.
Yeah,
I like him still. 5.6% owned. Liverpool at home this week is obviously not great for a clean sheet, but Luton away, Fulham at home, Crystal Palace away, Chelsea at home, Wolves away. Those are good next 5 after this week. And he's had 8 shots, which is second behind Cash. XG of 0.06, which isn't great, but he's the kind of long shots he's been taking. But yeah, key passes of 7, 2 big chances created, an XA of 1.04. So his assist potential is on the other side of Cash's. His assist potential is looking higher, but he has been having lots of shots, and he's hit the woodwork twice, I think, so far. So he's been a little bit unlucky there. Compared to Doji, who's obviously 17.6% owned. He's had 8 shots compared to Udoji's 1, crosses of 13 versus 5, big chances created 2 versus 1, an XA of 1 versus 0.6, chances created of 7 versus 4, and then points it's 19 versus 25. So you'd think it's going to swing a little bit in favor of Porro soon, and obviously he's only that 0.3 more expensive than him now. So I think if you've got that sort of money or willing to go to someone like that, I think Porro is a nice little differential for sure.
No, absolutely, and it looked like in the Arsenal game as well, he was taking a few corners as well, and like he was just so much. I think Udogie was doing a lot of great defensive work and bringing the ball up the field, but when Porro had it, it just seemed like he was like one of his first thoughts was like, right, how am I getting this ball forward or getting it into the box? So yeah, I think you're right there. Even though they're obviously playing similar sort of like wing back, left back, right back roles, I feel like he's definitely more prepared to take like a risky or make a risky pass forward or try and set something up. So yeah, I like him. I don't think, just from where I am now, Udogie, I'm not going to move to him, but I think for people who haven't got either, there's like a really, a good shout for Porro actually could be a better pick, and I think he's probably, like you say, he's just been a bit unlucky that he hasn't got more points.
Yeah, I would possibly not go there this week. Obviously, we're talking about Chilwell replacements, so you need it possibly this week. But you could wait 1 week and hope Chilwell starts, and then just go from there, I guess. Another one, Walker, 4.5 million.
Up. Why did we not just get Walker in? He got the new contract, and like Pep was banging on about how much he loved him.
Yeah, instead of Stones on Gameweek 1, right? Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
So Wolves away, Arsenal home, away, Brighton at home, Man United away, Bournemouth at home, Chelsea away. So the fixtures are a little bit mixed, but it's obviously City. He's quietly been the 4th highest scoring defender in the game so far with 29 points. So 3 out of 6 clean sheets so far, 1 assist, not missed a single minute so far. So that's the City defender that's been nailed that we've always wanted, and he's just kind of, I don't know, he's just gone by the wayside. Nobody's really noticed him. But yeah, 14.4%, I guess, is going to start to creep up pretty soon, I think. Appears to be playing a very sort of high and wide position in possession, something we've kind of not really seen him do much before. He's usually been the one that's sort of tugged in for the players like Zinchenko, Cancelo, sort of Stones, and that sort of defensive role that have gone forward. He's not really done that before, but he does seem to be the one doing it now. And he scored for England, obviously, in the same sort of role recently.
Oh, yeah, he did,
Got the assist of the weekend as well. So there's probably some points coming in the attacking potential for him too. So since Gameweek 1, 6-6, 2-2-2, and then 11. So his average is pretty good. And yeah, it's City. They can keep clean sheets against all of these teams, no matter the game, really. So I would probably, I don't know, I wouldn't say definitely bring him in at the moment. There's probably better players like Cash and stuff like that to bring him in. But if you want someone who's just nailed on and obviously the best team in the league, there's not far you can go wrong with Walker.
I think he's basically given what you would expect Chilwell to give, and like more, considering their fixtures are tougher at like a price which was less than Chilwell. So Yeah, you're right, and I kind of think as well that how Pep treats his defenders. Like if he doesn't start them, it's very rare. It seems from a historical point of view that they actually come on. So I think unlike Chilwell being brought on for the last 20 minutes and getting yellow cards, I don't think it's going to be as frequent if Walker did get benched. That it's just whether you can, how you fit a 5.3 million. Maybe he's a better pick than Estupinian. If you're going to have like one expensive attacking fullback, perhaps it's better to have someone from a City team than a Brighton team. But no, he's surprised me, let's say, this season.
Yeah, let's just see if he keeps continuing in that sort of role of being a bit higher. Because I think it's because Alvarez and Foden are a bit more central, and then he's just been the one that's in possession, has been very high and wide. Yeah. So yeah, let's see.
No, he's definitely an interesting pick. And is there any other defenders you want to touch on? Perhaps when we get to the Newcastle defenders a little bit later.
I suppose, yeah.
Yeah, sure. Okay. All right. Well, I mean, we mentioned it feels like there's a mass exodus of Chelsea at the minute, and probably rightly so because they've just been so disappointing given what good fixtures they've had. Like they've only looked like fairly convincing in that one game against Luton, and apart from that,
every team does.
Yeah, exactly. And apart from that, they've been poor. So probably the next person to talk about, who which we mentioned a little bit, is Jackson. Obviously, just stupid decision by him again, just to sort of get involved and get a needless yellow card, and he's now obviously got that ban for 5 yellow cards. I mean, for a young player, and the fact that they made such a big deal about it on Friday in the build up to the weekend, and Poch got asked about it directly in his press conference, like has he spoken to him, and yet sort of 48 hours later in the game, and here we are sort of the next week thinking, right, he's out. I mean, his ownership's obviously dropped like a stone. I think he was like 7.3 million a week or two ago, and he might have even dipped under 7 million now.
I think he's 7 million.
Is he? Oh, okay. He's back to his starting price. But yeah, there's obviously been that mass exodus. I mean, we talked about Morris being a potential player to replace him with, and I kind of think if you've got Jackson and he's going to have that red flag on him, it probably does make sense that Morris is a good short-term pick for this week, but if you're a short-term manager and you're potentially playing the double game week, and what can come of that. But if you're probably looking a little bit longer term, I think there's definitely other players to look at. So, I mean, if you've got a little bit more budget to spend, I'd be looking at Watkins. 5 returns in 6 games now. He's basically showing that consistency we expected at the start of the season, and what I had hoped for him. He's got a great run of fixtures as well starting now. I mean, obviously he and Diaby, we've obviously spoken about Cash having the fixtures, so just again they're Brighton, Wolves, West Ham, Luton and Forest, so in the sort of the next 6, so they're looking really good. He's got 1 point fewer than Diaby, which is a bit of a lingering point for me really, because Diaby's so much cheaper and he's in midfield, so he's getting that extra point for a clean sheet. But we're really looking at this from like a who you're going to replace Jackson with as a forward point of view and a forward pick. So he's averaging 3.2 shots in the box per 90 this season, which is the 5th best of all strikers. So he's not right at the top, but he's providing a good sort of rate there, and 0.5 xG per game, 6th highest. Again, not great per 90, but I kind of think if you're playing the fixtures, he's a good bet really. I mean, he showed against Chelsea he can be a match winner. Obviously got the goal and the 3 bonus points, and you'd expect now that he's got that goal, he would go on a run. He did that last season, and the fact that he has got 5 returns in 6 games now, it just takes one game for him to get like a double return in for him to shoot up even higher in the forward rankings. And the fact that he's had a price drop as well, down to 8 million, it's just like a slightly more incentive. So 17.5% owned, he's still relatively a differential. He's definitely not part of the main template, so it might be a good idea to go early there. They've got like good fixtures up to game week 16, so yeah, I like Watkins. Other players to mention, Darwin. I don't know what we'll talk maybe more about Liverpool when we get to our team or teams at the end, because you've still not gotten any Liverpool coverage, and he actually shocked me when I look at it. So 5 returns in the last 4 games. I mean, he's only started 2 of those 4 and only 2 all season, so you're really paying quite a lot of money there, 7.4, but based on what his performances have been like recently, you wouldn't be surprised if he starts to become first choice in Gakpo or Cody have a spell of playing on the bench. So he's actually got 8 big chances. That's the second highest of all forwards after Haaland in the last 4 games. 11 shots in the box is the highest too. And when you consider he's only started 2 of those 4 and the other 2 appearances have been 20 minutes, I think he's shown how sort of electric he can be. I was irritated with him though at the weekend. I mean, he's still a little bit wasteful, but like Salah played like a nice ball to him. He was on the penalty spot, he had time, and like he hit it first time and way wide. So he's still a bit. I think he's got like his shot conversion rate is improved since last season. But he's an interesting punt, and Liverpool's fixtures do turn from game week 8 after this Tottenham game, which is away from home. They've got Brighton, Everton, Nottingham Forest, Luton, Brentford. So they've got a good run of fixtures, and he could be a good differential. I don't know. When you look at Liverpool, I mean, you've told me you're not keen on Salah because he's not getting any goals at the minute. But is there any players from? I mean, they're obviously playing better. They're second in the league at the moment. They seem to have their like mojo back a little bit. Do you look at Liverpool a bit differently?
Yeah, I'm definitely going to start considering them pretty soon. As soon as the wild card comes around, then I'm sure Salah will be in, and Darwin is certainly someone I'll look at as well. Just hopefully he keeps starting the games over the next few. It's just the problem is like around I guess they don't even have Champions League, do they? They've got
Europa.
It's called Europa League now.
Yeah.
So is he going to play those games? It feels like he'll probably be really good in sort of opener games in the Europa League. So, yeah, it's just a wait and see with him. The minutes are still an issue, and you can never be sure he's going to be nailed on. That's the problem. That's true. Yes.
I mean, he, like you say, I think he started in that game, their Europa League game the week before this one. I think he got a goal and an assist. So, he's had an impact. So if you add like those returns to what he's done in the league, he's one of their most informed strikers after Salah, probably just based on the number of returns. So, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he plays in this Tottenham game at the weekend. Really, it's
just like there's Jota, there's Gakpo.
I know.
There's Diaz. They've got that Gravenberch. They've got Endo now. They got there's just so many players like Zoboslai as well. Like all these people. Like there's so many players just to try to. Salah's obviously going to play every game, and then there's like the other 2 across the sort of front 3, I suppose, of just who's going to go there, and it's just something I probably won't want to get into. I think it's just Salah and maybe Trent when he's back, and then. Trent is still so expensive, isn't it?
I know. You compare him to like the Newcastle defenders and what like the lack of clean sheets that we've seen this season, which is like a historical low, and it just makes you think Trent's not worth. But no, anyway, it's just worth highlighting Darwin's stats because Liverpool sit second in the table now. I kind of feel like they've got their mojo back this season, and they could be a threat to City. So yeah, he looked good. I mean, we mentioned Alvarez quite a lot. Just curse of the most transferred in player continues this season. But I mean, even though their fixtures, I would say for City, are not the best after Wolves, I don't think that really matters at all with them because they're just going to blast through. They're obviously 1-6 on the bounce already. He's up to 7 million now. 1.5 XG over the last 4 isn't that high amongst forwards. That's 7 players performing better, but. There's some players on there like Solanke, Jackson, Ferguson, but the assist potential is high. So 0.9 expected assists over the last 4, which is the highest. I mean, he's on corners, he's on free kicks, which is different to pretty much all the other strikers we've got this season. So that boosts his appeal. And I think that the amount that Pep has talked him up as stepping into that De Bruyne and Gundogan role, I mean, it obviously disappointed for all the people that had him this weekend because against Nottingham Forest in that second half, he probably could have got a return. And he's played so well this season, and I probably will own him at some point as well.
I just think when he's on the pitch, he just always seems to get something. I just don't really feel like I'm worried of him not doing something. I don't feel like he's ever going to blank. So I don't know, when there's Haaland and everyone else, there just feels like he's just going to get points most weeks.
Exactly. No, I think for I know I'm a bit gutted I didn't get him at 6.5 or at the start of the season, really, when when De Bruyne was out, Gundogan was gone, and he looked like he was going to be playing that. I don't know why it took us so long to realise his potential, but
that's City roulette, isn't it? You just were never sure, yeah.
But no, he looks like a really strong pick. So If you haven't already got Alvarez, I'd say he's firmly part of the template now. He's like 31% ownership. So you're just going to be joining the crowd rather than sort of making up. But it's probably best practice just to have him in there if you can, really. Cool. Should we talk a little bit about Son, because it's a player that neither of us have got. Obviously, he performed really well in the Arsenal game. 2 really clinical finishes. He obviously got the hat-trick before the international break against Burnley, so everyone jumped on him for that Sheffield United game, which typically he blanked in when they lose 8-0 sort of the following game week. What's your plan to get Son? I'll bring up our points teams just before we bring up our transfers teams, just so I can remind myself. But game week 8 is when they start to have this nice run. And is he looking like an essential to bring in for you?
Yeah, considering I don't have Salah, Son is someone I probably should be getting. I should be getting off the because Arsenal's fixtures are sort of swinging a bit. I don't really need that double up there. So yes, Saka there, Saka news has come out that he's possibly injured for this weekend, but I think we both discussed it before. We think he'll probably be fine. Saka could go to there. I could go to from Rashford to Son, and it's just a debate if I do it this week. Obviously Saka out before Bournemouth doesn't sound great, assuming he's fit. Rashford out before Crystal Palace doesn't sound great either, because Son is coming in for Liverpool, which on paper doesn't sound great either. But Liverpool's defense has not been good, and he obviously does well against teams who sort of press and high lines and stuff like that. So he should do well in that sort of game, just like he did against Arsenal. So especially that second goal, it's sort of that counter-attacking thing, a few balls through and he's in. In terms of his sort of stats, he's obviously the second highest point scorer in the game now, joint second, that is, 44 points behind Haaland, 5 goals, 0 assists. So he is a little bit of feast and famine though, because he's had 2 hauls and he's had 4 blanks. So 14 and a 20 a haul, and then 4 blanks of 2, 2, 3, and 3. Game week 2 to 6, he's had 14 shots, which is 9th, 10 shots in the box, which is 6th, an XG of 2.25, which is 7th, and then big chances of 4, which joins second with the likes of Doucouré, Danjuma, Saka, Matoma, and stuff like that. So then his XA is 1.87, 3 big chances created, and 11 key passes. So he's doing decent on the XA side. His XG and his shots are pretty middling, but you'd expect that to sort of get a little bit of an uptick with the fixtures coming forward.
Definitely.
Liverpool, I feel like he's probably going to get a good few chances for shots as well. At the moment, it's just like, do we want to go against Liverpool, and do we want to be selling good players for another good player? It's just that sort of thing, really. Well,
it's like the Liverpool's defensive. I mean, they're not keeping as many clean sheets this season, despite the fact their XGC is quite high. It's just, I don't know. How do you view that game going this weekend? I kind of think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I just think both teams are going to go for it.
So Liverpool's XGC is 6.1, which is the 6th best, which is okay, I guess. Conceded 67 shots though, which is the 15th worst. So if Son's getting a few shots, he's usually pretty clinical. That's possibly a good sign that they're conceding a good few. 1 clean sheet in 6 weeks for obviously Liverpool, so that's a good sign again. Van Dijk is back after his, I think it was suspension. So but they did again concede this week to West Ham. So I mean, player comparisons. Is he worth getting this week for Liverpool versus selling for Rashford? That's in my team anyway.
Right.
So Son versus Rashford. Sorry. Shots is 16 versus 26. So Rashford's getting way more shots. Shots in the box of 12 versus 20. Touches in the box 44 versus 46. Chances created 11 versus 8. Big chances created 3 versus 2. XA of 1.9 versus 1.5. XG of 2.4 versus 2.1. And then big chances themselves is 4 versus 3. So there really isn't that much in it. Rashford plays Crystal Palace at home. They play in the Carabao Cup midweek as well. So we'll see if United sort of do a decent team. Obviously, they're the holders of it. They'll probably want to try and win it again. And I think Ten Hag put out pretty decent teams last year in the Carabao Cup. So I would expect them to do it again. And obviously, we need a bit of consistency in that team for United at the moment because obviously we've looked pretty bad. So there's that. Yeah, I'll just see if Rashford plays during the week, see if he's looking any better. But yeah, I don't know. There's I could just do it straight. It would be a -4 now as I've obviously taken a transfer. It would rely on Saka being fit. It would rely on Maddison being fit, who are both doubts at the moment. So it's probably a just wait and hold on Rashford and just see what happens, I think. But in other situations, I think he's probably a good buy. Like we did say, if you bought Son for the Sheffield United game, you shouldn't be too worried about the Arsenal and Liverpool game.
And sure enough, he did well in that Arsenal game.
Exactly. So yeah, I don't know. I'm pretty sort of in between on it at the moment. I think I'll probably just keep Rashford, but I expect Son could do fine.
I think why he's obviously jumped to our attention, but like, and obviously his points have shot up, is if he plays centre forward, we know both because he's proved it in the past and he's won like the Premier League Golden Boot. He is like super clinical, and if he's going to be getting more chances playing centre forward, well, he doesn't even need more chances. I think in the Arsenal game he only had like 3 shots and 2 of them were goals. I think that's something that he and Kane were always like famous for, was like just their shot conversion rate because they were such good finishers. So I think if you're looking at the midfielder bracket, although he's like expensive, he's probably like the best, apart from Salah and maybe Saka, probably the best like natural finisher we've got in the midfield slots at the minute.
I think it relies on Maddison being fit, obviously.
Yeah,
I think he will be, but I think if Maddison's not fit, then I wouldn't want Son. I wouldn't want to bring in Son.
True.
In that case.
Yeah, and I think you've still got Bruno and Rashford, and so you haven't had any like, well, I mean, only reason I mentioned Bruno is I don't know if you've got the money to do that, but like I've got the money to get from Bruno to Son, and I kind of feel like Son has definitely got far more explosiveness playing centre forward and being a better finisher than Bruno. I mean, Bruno ended up being in the box and having most of United shots at the weekend, but I don't really expect...
Bruno was further forward,
Yeah, I don't know how much that's going to continue, but, you know, Son looks like, well, we know from history that he can provide more goals, and obviously more goals, more points than Bruno's potential assists. So, yeah, it's something I could do this week, but I'm not sure if it's worth doing based on the fixtures.
Yeah, I actually do have 1.2 in the bank. I lied earlier. I thought it was from what I had, because obviously I sold Chilwell to cash already, so I got a lot of money from that. So I actually could do Odegaard or Saka or Fernandes or Rashford. Any of them I could get up to Son if I wanted to. So.
Or you could do Mwamba to Morris.
Is that even enough? I don't know.
I don't know how much Mwamba is.
How much is Morris?
5.5.
Oh, I could do. You know.
Get on before he rises in price, Kieran, tonight.
Oh, good lord, that doesn't sound fun.
Anyway, so yeah, the Sun's really, and I kind of feel like if Sun, it's going to be on tele. I think it's Saturday. I'm not sure what time it is. Is it the morning kickoff?
Which one?
The Liverpool Spurs game.
I'm not sure actually.
No, I don't know. But it always feels like if there's a televised game on and a player does well, they're like price rises. Like how on earth Trippier rose in price after Sunday when I wouldn't even say there been that many transfers in, and as soon as he gets that haul, he rises the same night.
Spurs Liverpool is 5:30.
Oh, it's 5:30. Oh, so you know maybe it's me just like my witchcraft thinking, but like if it's on telly and Son does well, people are going to go crazy bringing him in. So by the time game week 8 comes around, he could be like 9-3 or 9-4.
Yeah, for me it would just be a -4 now as well. So I have to put that into consideration too.
That's true. Well, if Saka is ruled out, maybe that would make the most sense. But I just don't think any of that's going to happen. We'll see. Yep,
fair.
Anyway, let's talk about. We'll talk about that when we talk about our teams at the end. I probably just wanted to mention West Ham, because I've liked what I've seen for them recently. I know they've just lost back-to-back games 3-1 against City and Liverpool, but I thought they were like really good in both, and they are just like about to be on a really good fixture run now. So I think it's worth talking about because they're a team you can invest in, especially they've got cheap players there who can both help wildcards and help enable players like Son and Alvarez. So their fixtures up until Christmas, I could read them all out, but I'll just give you a bit of a flavour. The notable thing, they only played just 2 of last season's top 6 until Christmas, and 8 of the next 12 games against teams in the bottom half of the table. That starts this weekend with Sheffield United. and they've got Newcastle after that, Villa away, Everton, Brentford, Norwich, and Forest. So that's sort of like the short term, and just there seems to be value across the pitch. Areola is still 4.2 million. He seems to have come in and nailed that number one spot down. 30 saves this season. That's the second highest overall, and he's got the third highest overall on goalkeeper bonus points, and he's got 2 bonus. So, in a decent defence, he's still able to rack up the save points, and in these fixtures you kind of would expect more clean sheets to start dropping in. So I'm really pleased I got him on the wild card. I still wasn't convinced he was going to start over Fabianski, but when Fabianski started in the Europa League, I was quite happy to have him. So yeah, I kind of feel like if you're on a wild card or you're looking to save money from a 4.5 million goalkeeper just to further boost up this midfielder budget, then he looks good. And if you want to spend a little bit more money for this run of fixtures, Kufal, Emerson, probably just worth mentioning very briefly. Just obviously 4.5 million, both of them. Emerson's not missed a minute so far this season. He's got the most touches in box of all defenders for the West Ham. Obviously, you're paying 0.3 more for either of these players, but you might be getting an attacking return at that. Kufal's got 2 so far this season.
Yeah, I considered them over as a Chilwell replacement as well. But
They're honestly not bad. I think they've played really well in the game against Liverpool and City, and yeah, I think they've got a good thing going with Alvarez and Paqueta in the middle. Ward-Prowse, I think they've really I thought they would give me candidates to get relegated, but they've spent money so well in that midfield, and Bowen's looking really good again. And just on him, so he's actually less than 10% ownership, and I think he's quite a good price. You think of how much Mwembo has picked up. Bowen's got an XG of 2.3 and 3 goals in his last 4 games. That XG is actually the second highest of all mids after Saka, who had a penalty in that time, and Bowen has played City and Liverpool in that time. So when you put those two things in perspective, he's actually one bit unlucky to not do better, and because obviously his XG is so high, but then just 2. I think he's just been overlooked, and 5 big chances, joint highest of all mids in that time. So
afternoon was just get him in.
Yeah,
I know. Look at
that
run. Yeah.
Well, I think even before that, at the start of this week, before I'd even, spoiler as well, but I've made the Chilwell transfer, I was thinking Mwembo's not doing it. Brentford don't look as good at the moment, and Bowen's staring me at the face to start to be on a good run until Christmas. And yeah, Moyes talked up how important he was to the team, and
do it. Why not?
Yeah, I think he could be a good shout this weekend, and the Sheffield United fixture is obviously a pull to do it early.
I feel surely they're gonna they're gonna hate that 8-0 and just sort of just keep it as tight as possible. But yeah,
I know. No, I agree. And there was even talk about getting Chris Wilder back in and sacking the manager. Wilder was their manager they had, so
right.
Yeah, if that happens before the weekend, I don't fancy going up against a new manager bounce. But could be a thing. And just to mention Ward-Prowse fine as well, because it looks like he's going up in price tonight. So the game versus Liverpool was the first game he blanked all season. But I was having a look at his baseline bonus numbers, and despite no goal involvement in a 4-goal game away against Liverpool, he was only 1 BPS away from getting a single bonus. So and he's an absolute baseline bonus point monster. So if he gets a return, or it's probably likely to be an assist, he is pretty much guaranteed to get bonus in this team as well, which is going to be another 2 or 3 points. So yeah, for nearly $1 million less than Bowen, I don't mind him as an option if your budget is that way.
Sheffield United have got the worst defense against in the league, so and JWP and West Ham have probably got one of the best. I've not actually looked at it. Probably one of the best attacks on set pieces. So yeah, there's gonna be points in that, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, his numbers versus other mids are not that great. So 6 key passes in the last 4. That's not even in the top 20. 2 big chances created in that time is only just inside. But you got to factor in they played City and Brighton and Liverpool in the last 4. So you'd kind of think that, and he still returned points. Like I say, Liverpool was the only game he blanked in. So if you look at the game against Luton and Chelsea, that's the sort of quality of teams we've been playing next. He averaged a big chance created per game and 1.5 key passes per game. So I'm saying he looks like a decent pick for assists, maybe not goals. I think if you pick him, you just stick him in your team until Christmas and just forget about him. And he'll probably just tick along as an average of 4 points a game, maybe something like that. Yeah, I honestly think he and West Ham look good this season, a good solid team. And yeah, for 6.2 million, he's such a cheap investment. But yeah, I like Bowen as well. It's a shame neither of them are on penalties, because I think Paqueta's on pens. But yeah, maybe I don't know. I've been considering it.
Yeah, on West Ham as well. Like it's criminal that Kudus is not starting.
Oh,
yet.
yeah.
He needs to start. He's way too good to be on the bench. Way too good. I don't know who he would start it for, and I'm pretty sure that's why Moyes is confused of not starting him yet. But he's far too good to stay on the bench. So sooner or later, Kudus is going to start.
Yeah.
And he's going to be a good option when he does, especially with this run.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, should we want to talk about? Did you say you want to talk about Newcastle, and then we'll share our teams?
Yeah.
Thoughts again?
So Newcastle, obviously the 8-0 win. A lot of people got on them early. That probably a reason for my red arrow. But yeah, Trippier, 34.5% owned already. Probably higher than that now. 6.6 million. Looks like he's probably going to be close to essential pretty soon. More points in one game week than Chilwell had scored all season. Just to put that in perspective, 26 points in the last 2 game weeks as well, which is more than every defender over 6 game weeks, bar 7 others. So that's like a mental again.
Yeah.
Very good on bonus, mostly 90-minute man. Obviously, I think he got taken off early last week just because game was won, Champions League around the corner and that sort of thing. Has played the Champions League midweek as well. He started that one and then started the next one. So there doesn't seem to be too much rotation in that sort of sense for him. Fixtures great until Christmas as well, like with West Ham. So Burnley, West Ham, Crystal Palace, Wolves, Arsenal, Bournemouth, Chelsea, Man United in there, which is a little bit more awkward. But then Everton, Tottenham, Fulham, Luton, like really nice. Key pass is a 17, which is first, which is way ahead of anyone else. I think the next closest is like 11. 3 big chances great, which is joint second, and XG of 1.72. Assist potential is obviously very high. Sheffield United are obviously really bad at set pieces, so he got the 3 triple assists in the one game. Team XGC as well for defense is 6.0, which is the 3rd best. Conceded 7 goals, 4 of them are in game week 1 against versus Villa. So yeah, the defense looks really good. Double up probably seems like it's not a bad shout at all. If you can get to Trippier plus Botman, seems fine. Shah, obviously, shout out to Shah owners who obviously got screwed over with only 6 points this week.
I know. Like pretty much everyone
unlucky.
else in that team returned.
Yes, so fine owning Shah anyway. He'll probably just get something soon anyway, so don't worry about it. Botman wise, good option too. 4.7 million, the cheapest route into the defense. I think Burn is maybe around the same price actually. Nailed on as well. More attacking returns so far than he managed in the entirety of last season as well. So hopefully that luck continues. If I just got him in 12-point average for me so far, hopefully keeps going.
I know, that's crazy.
And then lastly, Gordon, 5.6 million, 3.2%. He's someone that you could look at instead of a Bowen, a Ward-Prowse, or a Diaby, that sort of play. Like really cheap enabler for Salah. Barnes injured for a somewhat around 4 to 6 weeks, something like that. He turned the game in the favor of Newcastle at the weekend. Probably not a 90-minute man every week, I wouldn't imagine, but he's going to be the starter for the time being, I think. So yeah, 4, 0, 10, 1, 5, and 12 so far, which is pretty good for someone who's
really
so cheap.
Good returns, yeah.
Exactly. So he's absolutely a good option if you want to get Salah, and good on the wild cards to enable as well. And his price is probably going to start rising in ownership pretty soon.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like the fact that I'm just having a look at his minutes because I didn't even know them before, but I think apart from maybe the Sheffield United game, he'd started every previous game. I think that's right, and then he just came on in that one. But yeah, it surprised me how well he's been doing this season, and not really I've heard or seen him in many teams, to be honest. So. Yeah, I think.
I thought Barnes had looked really good when he'd come on, so I thought Gordon would not have been continuing to start, which did happen, and Barnes had looked good, but obviously then he went and got injured. So and then Gordon came on and looked really good in turn. So probably just a little bit of proving himself that he shouldn't have been dropped. But looks good from now on. Yeah,
no, I think he could be good, and he's the sort of player you can put in midfield if you're like me, someone maybe I should be considering just that extra like maybe 0.5 of someone like. Prowse that's going to enable me to get to Alvarez, because at the moment I think with Morris
possibly cheap enough to be benchable if you need to as well.
Yeah, true. All right, any more you want to chat about on Newcastle?
And then just finally Wilson versus Isaac. Obviously this again is the same as last season. Obviously I was on the bad end of it at the end of last season. I picked Isaac over Wilson. and that went terribly. But yeah, so Wilson currently favoured in the Premier League due to Champions League rotation. We think they've not started together at all this season so far, obviously. So, but they have the exact same points for 24. And then minutes wise, Wilson's got 256 and 300 for Isaac. So, yeah, Isaac had been the one that sort of had been starting, but the rotations started to creep in. I think Isaac will probably start the Carabao Cup midweek, and then Wilson's probably going to play the game at the weekend. Who is it versus? Got
Burnley at home.
Burnley, yeah. So that seems pretty good for Wilson owners, for anyone who took the punt on him. Obviously, Wilson at 4.13 XG, which is second of all mids, was obviously, I think he's had under half the minutes of Jackson, who's obviously third with the XG. So Wilson is averaging 5.5 points per start versus Isaac's 4.75. But for me, I think it's not really an obvious pick either way. Isaac isn't just going to be sort of benched for all Premier League games. That just makes no sense. So Trippier and Botman plus a Gordon perhaps is probably enough coverage, I would say. 2, maybe 3 if you want to go for the double up defense. I think it's fine for Newcastle players.
And considering how well they did last season, how well they performed in most of their games this season, like their prices are still relatively inexpensive for what they offer. So yeah, I think when you look at most of their defensive bar Trippier, they seem good options, and like you say, Gordon, there's just good value to be had there. It's just picking the right time to get them in your team.
Yeah, they're gonna be so highly owned that if you don't have 2, you're gonna be wanting them to concede most weeks. So
yeah, true.
Yeah, I think it was like that at the end of last season. I think I only had 1, and I was hoping for a Trippier to lose a clean sheet every week, which obviously I own Trippier. So yeah, most people have got on the double already. So I think I'm possibly treading water if I go there as well, but we'll see.
Yeah, superb. All right, well, let's bring up our teams, and I don't think there's too much to mention on mine really. So obviously Haaland is probably going to be captain again, despite the fact that I've got Morris on the double game week. So I've just got Areola, Botman, who came in for Chilwell. Got that home game against Burnley. Got Cash, and then playing Bell over Udogie and Estupiñán at the moment. And then in midfield, I've got Bruno, Maddison with his yellow or orange flag, Salah, Saka with the same flag, Wembo and Morris, and obviously Haaland. So to be honest, I've made my 1 transfer already. I've still got 1 in the bank. I'll probably just wait until Friday to see what happens with these flags for Maddison and Saka. Kind of thinking if they're both fine, I'll leave it another game week and just then have 2 for the week after to maybe get Morris out, and then somehow maybe get Son, Alvarez, and maybe Mwembo down as part of a -4, because I think it'll probably pay off that week. But yeah, I've got
to a Gordon probably.
Yeah, exactly. I've got decent bench cover there with Archer and Udogie and Estupiñán. So yeah, no. To be honest, it feels like an all right week in prospect, which usually means it's gonna go tits up. Yeah. So yeah, no, that's me for this week. Probably roll. And
yeah, or it's if you're feeling spicy, then it's one of them to a Bowen.
Exactly.
Like that, yeah.
The only problem with Bowen for my setup is that if I got him for Mwembo, he kind of blocks both Son and, well, not necessarily. I could still afford Son from Bruno, but he kind of blocks getting anywhere decent from Morris. So I've really got to go down from Wembo, and I like Diaby as well, and I've thought about getting Watkins back. So that there's a few options. And game week 8 is when we were all sort of originally talking about wildcarding. I brought that forward. So if I can go into that game week with 2 free transfers, when the fixtures turn, I can just maybe make some fine tweaks to Bruno, Morris, and Mwembo. So yeah, we'll have a see. All right. Do you want to chit chat about your team and
Sure. So yeah, I've got Fleck in goal at the moment. There's a decision to be made there about who out of Turner and Flecken. I'm not really sure. Flecken's been a bit underwhelming. I thought Brentford defense would be better. They're missing me and Henry now, so yeah, I'm not really hopeful of a clean sheet there. I don't know if Turner's a better shout. Really, it's an awkward one. Really, I think that'll come down to just who I fancy on the day. Then Kabore, obviously in for the double, not expecting much, but then I don't really have like Estepinian on the first bench at the moment, Udogie.
Yeah.
So I would be fine with either of them to come in, I guess, but Kabore just for the double looks fine. I've got Cash starting over Estepinian at the moment. Obviously, they play each other, but Cash obviously at home.
Yeah, I'm doing
seems
that
to
as
have
well.
more of a sort of goal threat at the moment. So that's fine. And then Botman at home to Burnley. Then I got Rashford and Fernandez against Crystal Palace at home. Palace obviously pretty good defensively. I think they're about 5th or 6th best defense at the moment. So we'll see how that goes. I could be tempted to sell one to Son, as we've talked about. Saka on that flag. Hopefully he's fine. Bournemouth away, great fixture, so hopefully that's okay. Odegaard at Bournemouth away as well. I'm still waiting for Odegaard. He trolled me in the Champions League, got loads of points.
Then he did nothing.
And did nothing as usual in the Prem. So I'm just waiting for him to, he's got 2 returns this year, which is just getting on my nerves a little bit because he's been my sort of differential, and it's just 20% owned. So he's not really a differential. So I probably. Every time it's the problem of owning good players. Like every time I think to sell him, I get nervous just 'cause I think he's just going to return as soon as I sell. And then obviously I've got Maddison at home as well. Hopefully he's fine. Sounds like he probably will be. And then Haaland and Alvarez. Not going to get Morris. And then the bench is Estepinian, Udogie, Ubama. So I already did the move of Chilwell to Cash. So any other move would be a -4. So I imagine I would probably just leave it from there. I think I guess if Saka or Maddison miss it, I think only one would miss it. I think at least one should be fine. Maddison should be fine at least. So Estepinian coming in against Villa.
That's not bad, is it?
Like maybe I should put Udogie there instead, but I definitely don't think it's a clean sheet. So yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, I think there's probably more chance of an Estupiñán return again than Udogie. Probably. Yeah, I mean at the moment I think I've got Estu third bench actually, so maybe I need to change that around. But I sort of don't expect him to get on at the minute. But yeah, maybe based on Villa's high line, maybe he'll get some more chances going forward than Udogie will. But I don't know.
I think it's
difficult call.
At this point, I think it's another red arrow here. What I'm looking at, I just need United to start performing. It feels too early to go on Son.
Who do you think you need
something happens?
Yeah, I was gonna say, who do you think you need to maybe like a captain differential? I mean, I'm irritated a little bit because I could have captained Salah either of these last 2 weeks and he would have outscored Haaland. And I kind of think I need to start taking a risk on captaincy because like the EO is so high. If you bet against that and it comes off, you are going to jump up quite a lot of positions. But yeah, betting against him is difficult. Maybe not this week against Wolves, but I don't know. Yeah. It could be there could be a week to do it, and maybe when they play away against Arsenal, maybe. But
probably is the one. Yeah. But I think they've got good records against Arsenal, haven't they? City.
It's irritating because I think there'd probably be more variance in rank this season if it wasn't just Haaland auto cap every week. It felt like even when we had Salah captain, we were more prepared to do a different captain. But with Haaland, it's just like the ownership and his explosiveness. It's just crazy.
Well, he was 196% EO crazy. Last week, which is 4% of the people around your rank don't own him, which is or they probably own him but haven't captained him.
Yeah.
Seems like absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the reason for my poor results have just been I've had a stacked midfield, which has left me a little bit inflexible everywhere else, and the stacked midfield has just not performed. But the problem is like as soon as I start to sell them, I think they'll probably start to return, and it'll just be sod's law.
And they've all got good fixtures this week. I mean, Bournemouth have been absolutely atrocious, and Palace probably won't offer too much going forward. But if United can get an early goal, maybe they'll score like. Two.
Amrabat, I got some minutes, so I'm confident that Amrabat and get rid of McTominay again. Amrabat and Casemiro and Bruno sort of being the tip of the diamond, I guess, if Hannibal continues to start. And yeah, that sounds right. Rashford seemed to be just as far forward as usual with Højlund in the team. So if he's just not going to be as sort of selfish as usual, that needs to start scoring because he's in a funk.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, there's a lot riding on that game this weekend. Cool. All right. Well, I think that pretty much about wraps it up. We've just been about an hour, so
Yeah.
nice and concise. Well, thanks everyone for joining us. I hope you have a wonderful game week 7. I can't believe I'm
Oh yeah, and apologies for missing last week.
I know. I was on my international break.
Yes.
And now I'm back. I mean, not very international, but I was on a break. But yeah, we're back, and we'll be back again next week to preview. And you won't be on your wild card by then, will you? We'll be heading into game week 8, and then it's another international break. I'm sick of them at this time of the season. Sucks.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. Well, good luck everyone. Have a great game week, and we'll see you next time.
Cheers all.
Bye bye.